Hi there, welcome to Past Papers, episode 2. I'm Zahir Zakaria, and this is the show where we review past papers from times gone by and have a little bit more information on how people thought back then and how it applies now. This week's paper that we'll be looking at is from the London School of Economics and Political Science. It's on the topic of the moderating role of psychosocial well-being on the relationship between escapism and excessive online gaming. I'll make sure to put the link down below so that you can also read it. This paper was quite interesting and it was sent to me by one of our viewers who DM'd me personally and told me about escapism and about a paper that were related to escapism. So I wanted to look through this and tell you more about online gaming and escapism and the factors that might be affecting people who might have online addiction. Simply put, this paper is trying to explain and try to figure out how your well-being affects escapism in your life and how games are a facilitator for that. And this is shown through motivations of play. So there are different motivations of play. For example, you may be motivated to play because you really like the content, or maybe you enjoy it because of your friends play it. But we're trying to look into our psychological well-being and see how it is being used to escape maybe real life problems. And the way they did this is they took the biggest MMORPG in the world, World of Warcraft, and took around 898 players and gave them a questionnaire to take and on both their psychological well-being and also their need to play games maybe to escape or not. In the questionnaire, they asked questions about their stress levels, their self-esteem levels, and how much they play, and also how that affects escapism and if they believe that they have a gaming addiction. The results were telling, and I think it also reflects really well on what happened last week with the paper that talked about that gaming addiction is not a cause of stress or loneliness or low self-esteem, but it is actually what happens before. So it leads to a habit formation. This paper also talks about self-esteem and its impact and a motivator for online gaming addiction. However, it's actually quite opposite to what was said prior, where it's telling you that it doesn't matter what your self-esteem is, but what's more important is the stress levels that you may incur when you are out doing your real life things. So then this paper then says that people with low stress tend to not need to play online games as much as people who with high stress, and it has no impact of whether they have high self-esteem or low self-esteem. So their self-esteem has no impact on whether they choose to play video games in such a way. So it means that whether you think of yourself high or low, it doesn't really affect your gaming play or your playtime. However, if you have a lower self-esteem, usually it tends to create more stress, and that stress then leads you to want to compensate that through online gaming. So just like in the last paper, online gaming addiction is not usually the cause of loneliness, low self-esteem, or high stress, but is actually the precedent where people with high stress and those kinds of things or facing real life problems then tend to play online gaming more. For this paper, they also left out a few things like 2 primary motivators that you could use to play video games, like social interaction or achievement. And I hope to see maybe someone can send me a paper on what that might entail. But in terms of social interaction, people do play that, and I think it also contributes to stress levels. People who might feel that they're too stressed talking to real life people or stressed because their friends are not being the way that they want to, they might compensate by going to a forum where there are people who share the same thoughts or share the same opinions and feel more relaxed in that digital space. My thoughts on when I was reading this was that it hit spot on again, and this is 4 years after the last paper, which is 2014. And it talks a lot about online gaming addiction, but when you compare it to nowadays, when in the world of social media and TikTok and whatnot, people will really put their self-esteem into those things, and in turn it can create high stress levels, and in turn they will then be addicted to such a thing. For example, as myself as a gamer, I do play games now sometimes because I'm too stressed from work, or sometimes I just don't feel like interacting with people because it's too stressful. In that same spectrum, people go on social media because they don't feel like interacting with real life people. So they have many different forums, there are many different spaces, digital spaces, where they can go and relieve their stress. You can even talk about porn addiction is one of the things, or you can talk about how people use chat rooms to facilitate social interaction, because real life social interaction might be too stressful, and it's just that thing of stress. And the main key thing here is that in our day and age, this paper, while in 2014, talks about how compensation is key. So we as human beings, we tend to compensate for a lot of things, whether it is in our work, whether it is in our social life, whether it is in our mental or our physical health. So it's important to know and to gauge when you develop these kinds of addiction-like symptoms, and to see whether what you're doing right now, whether you're going on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, or playing online games, are you doing it for the sake of fun, or are you doing it for the sake of escaping something, or are you trying to compensate for something that is lacking in your real life? So in conclusion, next time when you're doing something, try to figure out maybe whether what you're doing or your hobby or pastime is something that you're using to escape real life problems, or is it something that you truly cherish? Because while it is good to have things that relieves your stress, you shouldn't create a situation where something also creates an addiction. For example, for me, I love to play video games. However, sometimes I need to understand that there are other responsibilities and things that I need to take care of in the real world. So if you guys have any more papers to share with me, depending on online or another topic, I would love to read them, and I'd love to share my thoughts on them. And I'll see you next time. Bye.